Greetings, everyone, and welcome to Create Yourself Imagery, Intimacy, and Innovation, a place where people from all walks of life and various backgrounds come to share their transformative personal and professional stories of restoration, clarity, confidence, and empowerment. I'm Joyce Kyles, your global speaker, author, trainer, and coach. And if you're ready to transition, transform, and thrive, this is indeed the podcast for you. Today's guest, I am super excited to have. I met this young lady. I mean, this fashionista, this superstar, this as she has been donned the political Barbie. I met her maybe a decade ago at an event where we were both part of a platform to speak. And so I did, my little spiel and had a seat, but I had an opportunity to hear her speak. And when I tell you, she's just a powerhouse, wise beyond her years, straight no chaser, straight shooter, tells the truth, tells it with authenticity. I'm just excited to have her to join. So I'm going to read just a little bit of her bio, and then I'm going to have her come on and share in the way that only Theryn knows how to share. So Theryn C. Bond is also known as Political Barbie, and that is a hashtag, so please use it. Is a native Memphian, currently residing in DC, who has mastered the art of a multi-layered career path, all by the age of 39, with no mountain being too high to climb and no challenge big enough to run her off. When you see perseverance in the dictionary, you'd likely see a picture of her next to it. In the last 8 years alone, Theryn has fought and survived cervical cancer, organized some of the most progressive rallies in Memphis, and helped elected officials be accountable like no one else has ever seen. Hard work is in her blood, and I can most definitely say it is. I just personal experience. Coming from a bloodline of game changers, Theron has a heart for the people and works tirelessly to hold those in power accountable for improving quality of life for all. Her unique approach to life has made waves across the entire U.S. and internationally. So I present to some and introduce to others none other than Theryn C. Bond, political commentator and strategist. Welcome, Theryn, to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for making time for me because, see, I know that you are a political powerhouse, political superstar, and you do lead and speak with authenticity, and you have an amazing story. Um, One of the reasons that I wanted you to be part of Create Yourself is because of the work that you do out in the world, but then also your own personal journey. And it was mentioned, when I read your bio about your journey with cervical cancer and just all the pieces of you. So I shared the formal bio. What
Yeah.
I'd like for you to do is in your own words and, just take the time that you desire to tell our listening audience a little bit more about you and your create yourself journey, some things that maybe weren't in the bio. So the floor is now yours.
I think the name that you gave this with create yourself is so indicative of my journey. I feel like, you hear about people getting a silver spoon or having things handed to them on a silver platter or just giving the fast track to things, giving the elevator and not having to take the escalator or even the stairs. Somebody that's had to literally build things one brick at a time, one step at a time, one moment at a time. And I feel like that's me. And when I think about it then and know that I have truly earned my stripes, it's something that I can admonish about myself. But man, when I look at honestly speaking about other folks who did not get it out the mud and people who were just handed some opportunities, and there's so many debates about whether people earn things and we judge others in that. Lately, in a time where so many of us are questioning ourselves, our journeys, especially with the positioning of what's happening in the world around us and how things just got this particular way, I say to myself often, what would it be like if I had gotten it easy? Or
Mm,
easier. And I
yes.
tell, some friends in private chats, I didn't think things would always be this hard because they always feel very hard. And so, on one hand, I can appreciate that I was forced to be resourceful. I don't think anybody chooses to be that. I was forced to earn some hard lessons for many things that weren't necessarily my fault or responsibility, but it pushed me in a way to have to figure things out. And because I had to do that so long ago, I've continued to adapt and elevate those same skills into who I am today. And it's allowed me the opportunity to help others along their journeys. And for that, I'm grateful. But the crazier this world gets, I'm like, can I just get some easy? Can I cash in all of my points? Because
Mhm.
I don't know how to half step anything. And often I think sometimes we count ourselves out as people who say we have all these ideas and all these things we want to do and we want them to be perfect. And no one is perfect but God. And so for us to try to equate ourselves to that is a tall order that we'll never be able to fulfill. But what we can do is always show up and be our best and be present. And I think we owe it to ourselves to do that. So I have found myself in my journey. I tell people, I have the name hashtag political Barbie, and that's around my political accolades and things. But I have been very fortunate to be able to kind of merge or intersect multiple careers. My background was in radio and television broadcast and production, so I know what goes on behind the camera, in front of the camera, how to write the things people say. And then I also worked in a nonprofit space where oftentimes people in leadership there have to speak to the media, or something comes out and then you have to discuss it for the papers, or now discuss it for social media. So you get the comms that interacts with the nonprofit space, and then politics encompasses all of those things. And I've been able to work those career paths individually and then see them all come to a head at various points in life. And now, at almost 40, I don't know what it's like to be 40 and reevaluate things. And I don't know if this happened to other people when they turn 30 or 40 or 50. I know when I turned 30, I was just coasting through. But as I get closer to 40, and there are other things that I would like to see, and some things that have kind of come to me, I do often think about, because I'm not currently married, I'm unable to have kids, what that looks like for a person who wants companionship and career at the same time, and what it means to be almost 40 and have both of those things not currently connected, and having peers who chase their career and then they got the family, they got the kids, they got all those things later, and then other colleagues who they wanted their career, but they chased the relationship, they chased the man, or they chased the woman for their own particular reasons. And now they've been able to hold that down, and then are now figuring out themselves in the professional space, and what that means to kind of walk similar paths, but chase different avenues and see where that's gotten us today.
Wow. So many things that came up for me as you were talking and
Yeah.
sharing. First of all, I appreciate the acknowledgement of the create yourself name and the why, because um, you know me in a more intimate way than maybe some others,
Mhm.
to know that my start actually came as a result of having gone through domestic abuse.
Mhm.
And so that's not a secret to anyone. And at this point, it has been very helpful with helping me to reach others in ways that I
Mhm.
didn't plan on. And so for me to go from that experience to doing the things that I do now, people have asked me all the time, how did you get comfortable with getting involved in a relationship again and trusting again? And, those pieces. And then there was the thing of my weight up and down as I went through those periods. I've been a 2 and I've been a 12 plus
Oh, I
and
ain't
plus
never
and
been a
plus.
two. Is there a pathway to two? Because man, these 14s is hugging.
Yeah, and I understand, same. Yes, I understand. And everything in between, and so I would have people ask me about that and just being comfortable in your own skin, the light complexion versus, being more dark complected. I would have those conversations with mostly women. And then the innovation piece of, going through the pandemic and what did that look like? And trying to
Mhm.
create, position for myself and those things. So I say all that to say that that is really where Create Yourself came from, because I'm always encouraging people to think about what it means to transition, transform, and thrive. What does
Mm,
that look like? What does that feel like? And to be reminded that you can do it at any age. So there's no age restriction on when, marriage will happen, or relationship will happen, or new jobs, or, move somewhere, move from one city to another state,
yeah.
move to another country, like to be open
Oh,
to that.
yeah.
What does that look like and feel like? So as you're talking and sharing, I love that you have shared how you have taken all of your skills, all of your gifts, all of your talents, and it wasn't handed to you. You worked for them, you earned them,
Yeah.
and you have found ways to integrate them into this powerhouse woman that you are. And I forget sometimes, I'm like, oh yeah, she's not quite 40 yet, but you're doing all the things,
Yeah, I just turned 39 like about 3 weeks ago. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
That's why I was like, oh yeah, she's not. So I think for me, just listening, and I'm sure that others who will take time and listen as well, what I am hearing and what I'm hoping others are gathering is that you can be multifaceted and you can have certain skills that may have worked in this area, but you can pull them into a new space and create a new narrative, a new path, and go forward with that. And that everything, even when things are going really well in one place, but you still have these desires
Yeah.
to have other pieces of your life, and that it's okay, and it's okay to be honest and vulnerable and say that. So Karen, I love that you are sharing, as I knew that you would, because you are an authentic person, so I
Yeah.
knew that you would share this way.
Yeah, we used to what did people in the formal professional space call them transferable skills, but
Hmm.
I do believe that there are some things that are just what do the young people say, in you not on you? It's some
Yes.
things that are just so organic with a person. It's like they came to the earth this way. It was in them before anybody taught them anything, before they learned anything in school, before they learned anything from their peers. It's just it really is who they are at their core. And then as we journey through life, through school, through different jobs with friends and family members, sometimes we adapt to those environments. Sometimes we go into it going, this is very different, and it's different in a way that's not cool. So now I feel the urge to change it. And then we go, wait, maybe we can amplify that. Maybe that's something good, and it needs what I have at my core
Right, right.
to make it better. And I think the more people realize what their talents are, it can sometimes help them find their purpose, because what your God-given gift is not necessarily what you recognize as your talent. And sometimes they coexist, and eventually they
It's
do
good.
kind of either run parallel and sometimes cross each other. But I would say for me, I did, my mom, when she was my mom is gone now, but when I was younger, I was in beauty pageants, and I mean like the John Bonet big hair, all the makeup, those
Okay.
kinds of things. And then local malls in Memphis, this is when we had like Hickory Ridge Mall, when we had
Hmm.
Mall of Memphis, and they had models that would model for the stores and the mall. And I was one of those models for both of the malls.
Okay.
And so I was always in a very, very public space. I was a shy kid. Like I wouldn't Shoney's was real big back in the day. You couldn't pay me to put in my own Shoney's order. But if you asked me to go out there and strut and do something and twist and turn or dance or baton, I could do all that. I could do all the
Wow.
performance stuff,
Wow.
right?
Wow.
But I wouldn't
Okay.
socially, it just
Mm-hmm.
was like, ooh, this is weird and this is scary. And it's interesting now when people say, "Oh, they can never believe I was shy," and I'm like, "Yes, very, very, completely on the opposite end of the spectrum." I go up and talk to almost anybody, but
Okay.
that's who I was growing up. But I was always in a very public facing position, even as a kid, and it wasn't forced on me. I embraced it, and I liked it, and I remember my grandmother used to tell stories about myself and one of my older cousins, and we used to perform to Preacher's Wife, Whitney Houston, I Believe in You and Me, when she's in a nightclub. And I used to make her come down the hallway and I would stand on top of a step stool and perform. So being around
Okay.
people, being engaged in performance and socially and talking to complete strangers has always been something that's a part of me. And so naturally integrating that into radio, into television, into film, into production, into community organizing, where that's your number one
Mhm.
thing is you talking to strangers all day. And the
That's
more
right.
strangers you talk to, the better. And so that's when
Right.
we talk
Right.
about those skills being transferable between different mediums and platforms and workspaces. And then now being very heavy into politics, it was like, okay, I definitely thought um all of these things were, I would say they were my gifts. They were things I was naturally drawn to, but I also played piano as a kid. I'm not good now.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I didn't
grew up.
know
I
that.
had a
Uh-huh.
very there are pictures of me where I had like a baby piano, and I would play.
Okay.
And I grew up with a piano in my home, but
Mm-hmm.
I could hear music very well. I can play music by ear. I could play drums by ear. I can play other instruments by ear. And people go, "What? You can play instruments?" Yeah, I could do all of that stuff. But those were just things I was never like, "Oh my gosh," I was very passionate about. And recently, um I went to Los Angeles on a whim because I looked at an email, I heard God said go, and I went. And someone that I had been connected to many years prior prophesied something over me that is very, very different than what I do now, but it's certainly tied to my childhood. And so it's interesting to see as you grow up, as you travel to different cities, as you amplify things that you are very talented at. And then you don't stop to think, wait, yeah, I'm good at this, but is this my purpose? Is this what I was like born to do? Is this what I was created to uplift? And we don't always take the time to figure that out. And I think it's really important for people to be aware because it could unlock some things that you didn't even realize existed for you.
And you know, Darren, I'm really appreciative of you lifting that point up because I think sometimes we tend to run from certain things that we
Hmm.
could have created a whole different narrative for our lives and maybe eliminated some of the drama and trauma that we have experienced.
Yeah,
I always say though that, everything that has happened, was for a reason. There was a lesson to be learned. All of it hasn't been terrible experiences. Even if we take a wrong turn or a different
yeah,
turn and it took us longer to get to that positive place. But if I'd have just been a little more in tune and a little more self-aware, what would that have looked like? Would the
yeah,
narrative have been any different? Um, and first of all, I didn't even know you were that. I knew you were multi-talented and multifaceted, but that's a whole nother right brain, left brain kind of thing that you have going on there. So
yeah,
lots of talents, lots of gifts. There's a bravery that I commend you for having as it relates to politics, because I know, like anyone who is listening to us, is impacted by political climate in some way.
yeah,
For some, it may be a joyful occasion, and for many others, not so much. But having the voice and the bravery to use that voice to speak up. I admire it so much. It is
Thank you.
definitely not my gift, my talent. Um, but somebody has to do it, someone
Yeah.
needs to do it. So I'm glad that you do. And the other piece that you lifted up, you said, God said go, so I went.
Mm-hmm.
In this space, one of the purposes of this podcast is I always ask, and I'm going to ask you at the end,
Sure.
about things that you would suggest or encourage listeners to adhere to. But that is one that I want to lift up in this moment. Now, that
Okay.
sometimes when you hear that voice, and I always say to everyone doesn't believe the same. So
Sure.
whoever and however you believe, but there we all have this little intuition within us. We all have this little voice, right? And so
Yeah.
when you hear it, if you are truly taking time to tap in, as you said, just truly tap into yourself and think
Yeah.
things through and really assess. You said, God said, go, so you went. I'm going to encourage people in this space right now. If you hear that voice, just go, because that is your transformation oftentimes comes in ways and spaces that we might not even expect. And we're looking for this yellow brick road for this answer,
I have a
and it
friend that
might
says that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, and it might just be this still voice that's within us that's saying, and it's whispering. But if you're not being still long enough to hear it, you may miss it. And then you're going through this hamster wheel. So, I'm saying as you're sharing, when God says go, go.
I feel like I'm so authentic to a fault because I tell people all the time my dating life is very private, but everything else is like I'm an open book. Um, I feel like so in at this point in life, like today, I
Mhm,
feel like such a hypocrite because when I tell people, because very few people know just about the whole everything surrounding the trip to LA and why I went this particular time, because I lived in LA for nearly 5 years.
mhm,
In that moment, so over the deeper I get into politics, the deeper I get into purpose in things, I had to I had to strengthen my faith. But it is a challenge. And where I'm at in life now is I'm getting my butt kicked. It's like the closer I get, the best way to explain it is the closer I have gotten to who I believe created the earth. The more I pray, the more I meditate, the more I get closer to alignment. It seems like the more I get my tail kicked, and that is problematic for me because growing up, we teach people hard work pays off. You do the good things, some way it will return to you. And so the flesh, the human side of me says, I've been doing all this good. I've been doing it authentically. I've been doing it organically. I haven't asked of anything. I just, here's my little wish list. Here are the things I'd like to see for myself, and many of which include helping others. Why am I getting my butt kicked? I say that because, in the same vein, where I listened, it was very clear to me when God said go. And when I say everything down from I had to fly to LA from DC in less than 5 days. And with all that is going on with airlines and airports and planes and
Oh
things
my,
these
yes,
days, I was
yes.
like, there ain't broke like she's been before. But to get a plane ticket, my plane ticket was less than $300. I had a friend who said you could stay with me. He said, well, based on my schedule, I may or may not be able to pick you
Mhm,
up. My cross country flight got in 45 minutes early. So my friend was able to pick me up, and things just continued to just fall in place for
mhm,
that entire trip to go well. And that was in March. So fast forward to where we are in July. When I tell you I have questioned God so much in the past, I'm gonna say 7 days, than I have in maybe 7 years.
mhm,
And when
mm.
people think about
Okay.
what's happened in those seven
Mhm,
years, At one point, yes, I questioned why I got cancer and the timing of that, and there were things around it that were very, very frustrating, including the lack of ability to have kids. And then as I started to recover, and there were women my age that I knew personally that had their own experiences with cancer and other health related issues, and I was able to help them. I was like, I don't like none of how I got this, but I understand it. I would not have been able to help them had I not gotten it. And so a part of me understands that piece. And then if we talk about, well, I lost my mother and my grandfather in the same week. Well, God gave me discernment 6 months before my mom died. I knew she only had 6 months. And I only told maybe two other people that maybe would understand. And
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
while nobody is ever prepared, I was maybe more prepared than most. And I knew what that experience was like, A, because I had had cancer before,
Mm-hmm.
and two, because I had the discernment of how things are going to play out. I had never planned a funeral
Right.
before. So did I question maybe, oh, why did this happen? Sure, because some things
Sure.
didn't make sense to me, but there
Mm-hmm.
were a lot of
Absolutely.
things about it that did. But when
Yeah.
we get back to me personally, it's like I have all these gifts, I have all these talents, and right now God has me very still. And there are a lot of things that happen on the surface, but right now I'm using the word force because that's that's to describe the feeling, but I am positioned in a way that makes me have to be still. Despite what I see, what I hear, what I feel. And as a person who has been forced to be resourceful and have to figure things out, it does feel hypocritical to say, well, now I'm questioning God, because it's like, wait a minute, you put all this in me, but where is it going? You
Mm-hmm.
set it up for me to be here, but now these things aren't going well. You put these
Mm-hmm.
people around me, but now certain stuff isn't panning out. So, where are we? And so 100%. And I think you have to be really, really in tune, because there's some situations I've described to some people very, very, very close to me that I talk to, like 5 times a week. And when I describe the situation, they say, "Oh, that's discernment." I said, "Well, it didn't feel like the loud voice. It was just me organically doing a thing or feeling
Right.
led, and the thought just came in and downloaded it in, and off I went." And
Mm-hmm.
as
Mm-hmm.
they describe it to me from their connection and what they see, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. So I do think that you have to be completely tapped in, because you have to understand when that go is very loud,
Mm-hmm.
and then also understanding when it's very silent. And that's my personal struggle, because I'm a
Mm-hmm.
social person. Is that quiet stuff, I'm like, just give it to me, give it to me, and let me figure out how I'm gonna feel, how I got
Yeah.
to move. And that's not how God is operating in this season. So you definitely have to be aware. You have to be aware of yourself. You have to ask yourself the hard questions. You have to, take those notes, write things down, put dates on them. That's something that I do a lot of now. Is when I have a thought, I text it to somebody, or I write it down and I put a date on it, because a week from now, a month from now, a year from now, something will happen, and I'll need to reference it and be like, wow, like I said this a year ago. The
Right. Right.
commentating is an example of that. Apparently, I told a bunch of people I want to talk about politics on TV, and I'm just casual
Yes,
conversation.
you have, because you shared it with
When
me.
it happened, people started to show me texts and emails where I said this to them, and I'm like, I don't even, like, it sounds like something I would say, but I don't even remember saying it in that way to those people. And so those are memories and milestones that other people had to say, you doing this now. You said you wanted to do this, or you would do this. Here is the proof. And it's like, wow. So you also have to realize how powerful your words are, especially in this season. And there's so many things that have just confirmed that for me, which is why is as easy as it is for me to talk to people and discuss politics and make things understandable for folks, it is also equally as hard for me in moments that get quiet, because I'm not used to that.
So what I will say to you is, yes, I remember. Now I can't say that I have it necessarily in a text, but
Yeah,
I definitely know it was to be so in conversation. I know that we have had conversation about
yeah,
you being on television because you have that it. You have the personality and the tenacity, the wherewithal to be able to withstand. And again, I admire the bravery of it all. I admire the fact that you adhere to the fact of, okay, this is something that I can do. And because everybody can't, and you have to
yeah,
be able to have something within you to fight. And I do think that there are gifts, there are talents that we have, and then there are gifts that we
yeah,
have, and you are operating in your gift. And so, what you're describing is manifestation. You have been saying and speaking it so much, even in your subconscious. You
yeah,
have had this embedded so deeply within you that you ain't even realized that you've been saying this and speaking it. So you have been, prophesying it over yourself, and it's now
yeah.
it has manifested into where it is and where it's going because I see what you're doing out here. And for those of you who are just coming into knowledge about who Theryn is, if you just Google her, but we're coming down to the end, so I'm going to ask you how to connect and all that stuff in a
Sure.
moment. But you have manifested because you believe in yourself, you believe in the needs of others. And what I ask is, as you are exploring those needs for others, make sure that you are continuing to pour into yourself as well. And a lot of times we will sit back and look at all the things that we have done in terms of how we've helped other people instead of taking a moment to just sit still and be still and think, you know what, I have done all these things. And it's not, I told somebody in a presentation I gave a couple of weeks ago that T.I. used to say that it's not bragging if it's true. So,
Mhm.
those things
Yeah,
they are true of you, true of what you have given and what you're doing. When you show up as your authentic self, then always know though that to whom much is given, much is required. And so
yeah.
in my saying that, you are going to continue to climb this greatness ladder that you're on because you keep speaking it and sharing it and showing up authentically. But just like I do, there's our time and our timing, and then there's God's time and God's timing.
Yeah.
And, sometimes, the word says, be still and know that I am God.
Hmm.
And we know this and we hear it, but it's hard to adhere to it.
Yes, it is.
And to
Yes,
your
it is.
point, when you are a person who is moving, 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 I remember when I was in therapy uh, several years ago, and I was telling the counselor, I was talking to her about all the things that I was doing, and at that point, I was full on into my nonprofit work, and
Yeah.
was beginning to speak more. And it was probably around the time that I met you, and just doing all these things right. And this was a group setting, and she said, you're doing all of this great stuff. You're showing up and pouring into everyone. Have you thought about what it is that you want?
Mm.
What it is that you want to do? And I said, well, I just don't have time. I don't have time because, I'm doing this and doing that. And you're going to burn out. Said you're going to you're talking about being a powerful Black woman. You're going to be a dead Black woman because you're just doing and giving it. I need you to answer one question for me. And you don't have to do it today. I just want you to sit and think about it. He said to me, what do you think would happen if you stopped moving?
Mhm. You know, I, I I've thought about that before.
hmm hmm
And I'm gonna give a real world example. I think the first time it was very, very present for me was after I had had a bunch of just back to back to back, just exceptionally large highlights in my political career. And then the next political cycle came around the following year and nobody picked me. And oddly enough, what I had been saying is I want to be picked But if I don't get picked, I'd like to moderate like the discussions and the forums and all the related things. And I didn't say, I didn't make a big announcement about not wanting about wanting to not be picked because I felt I could do both. But I didn't
Right.
want one
Right.
to impede the other.
Mm-hmm.
But the year that I didn't get picked, I said, well, I wonder what this is going to look like because
Mm,
I didn't get picked. And in that moment, while I had been curious about it, I said, this ain't fun. It's not fun for me not to be in the mix, especially when I see people making mistakes that don't have to be made. I think that's
mm-hmm.
been
Mm-hmm.
something that I haven't been able to shake my whole life is when I can see the problem
Mm-hmm.
and also see the solution at the same time. And then either somebody can't see the solution or they choose to skip over it. And then the problem or the issue becomes exacerbated. I'm like, this don't have to be a
Mm-hmm.
dumpster fire,
Mm-hmm.
but it
Right.
is. And knowing that I could easily improve the situation or fix it, but I didn't get picked. And so then I had an idea of what that was like. And while, yes, I got to moderate very successful forums, I didn't, I wanted the choice. So I didn't like not having the choice to say
Mm-hmm.
no.
Right. Right.
And
Right.
so I feel like people, actually, I told some of those close friends this week, I'm like, do y'all think I'm gonna be doing politics forever? Because, and some of them don't know what has been prophesied to me, some of them do.
Mm,
And based on how intense the last 7 days has been for me, I'm like, I don't know that I like this like I used to, because it feels like my creativity and my voice is in a box right now. As much as I do,
okay.
I
Okay.
have goals that have not been met. And there have been people who have offered to help on their own, or people who have been asked to help and can but don't, and all of those things mixed together.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, is this still the space for me? And while I know my voice and my knowledge helps people, it is also very hard for me to remain in the space not achieving my personal goals despite it helping other people. And so I think if I was to, let's say, step away completely today and do something else, I don't think people would believe it, because when I said I'm moving to DC, almost, I'm gonna say 80% of people said, okay, so when you coming back?
Hmm.
Or how long you gonna be
Yes.
there? Is this
Mm-hmm.
temporary, or is it like and I'm like, I'm moving, I'm getting rid of my apartment,
Mm-hmm.
I'm changing my address, like I'm doing all the things that people do when they have a large move, like outside of their city and state. And 80% of people just thought that wasn't gonna be the case. And so I think if it was to really happen, A, people wouldn't believe it. B, people would either assume something very traumatic would have happened. C, they would say, what's next if not this, or you're so good at this. And I'm gonna tell you what really burns me up about the you're so good at this is if it doesn't match the support. If you believe I'm so good at this, match that with the support, match that with funds, match that with referrals, match that with taking my names into rooms that I don't even know exist and amplifying that. Match
Yes.
that with not just talking about it in private, but talking about it in public and making those connections. And so those people who would do that, they're not people that I would say I retain value in their discussion, but it's kind of the audacity of, I appreciate you think that I'm good at this, but if you think that I'm good and your support doesn't match, now I'm confused. And that's
Mm-hmm.
quite a few people. So I think politics would look a lot different. I know there's a network that I had to back away from for some things that just weren't promises that were supposed to have happened just weren't going in a way that was conducive for me any longer. And I've seen the void.
Mm-hmm.
And how that came back is somebody that I knew was asked to be on that network and came to me for coaching, because that's how it.
Okay.
So I would say
Okay.
I know how it what it looks like to not have my presence seen and felt. And in some ways, some people deserve that absence, even though that means me losing out. Um, but it also gives me room to go and do something different, and people see me in a different light. When I came into politics, people were like, "Huh, where did this come from?" And I'm like, well, have you met me? Do you know my background? Have you asked? But I've always been a very creative individual, and I know sometimes my talents show up in different seasons of life. And because I know that in some cases politics may never leave, even if it means I'm not managing campaigns or I'm not providing strategy, but I'm merely doing the research to help people develop a voter guide so they know how to make well-informed, educated decisions. But there are, other things that, I'd like to do. So
Well, I think that is a good segue then to wind down our conversation, because as multifaceted as you are and as many things that as you have done and as much as you have accomplished, I'm hearing the passion and purpose in your voice, that there is still so much that Theryn has to give and to do.
yeah.
And there is some excitement and some questioning about what the next looks like for you. But that's what I love about this whole create yourself space, is that it is about your journey, your transition, your
Yeah.
transformation, your move, your desires. Because, one thing that I know for certain is that everyone has an opinion.
Hmm.
And whether you ask for it or not, whether it is to your betterment or not,
Yeah.
because there are people that pray and people that pray, you
Hmm.
know, on
Hmm.
your gifts, skills, and talents.
Yeah.
And like you, there have been some times and spaces too where I have seen the level of support or lack thereof, but you're so good at it. And this is what I want you to do. Keep the organization. I've shared candidly on more than one occasion that part of my decision to dissolve my nonprofit, there was some support from some people, but there was a lack of support from others that I expected that they would support because they voiced that they would support. And then it just, for whatever reasons, it's not happening or coming together in that way. But you as an individual still have to keep the train going,
Yeah.
and after a while you have to get to a point of, I'm good at what I do. I understand it, and I need to go a different route. It's not that I can't do what I do. It's not that you can't do what you do, but it's what you just said. You just may do it in a different way. So that voice and that presence will be there. It just may be in a different way. And I think that that comes with growth and with season. The season for certain things ends. So I know, like for me, I have no desire ever again to actually run and operate a nonprofit, just
Mm.
because of all the work that it
Yeah.
takes. But I had to be, when you talk about a full authenticity moment, I had to be completely honest with myself and recognize I never wanted to operate a nonprofit in the first place. I never, and I was in that.
Yeah.
I started in 2010. It's 2025. I dissolved, it's been over a year now. Um, but when I was sitting with myself, I realized, "Well, you never wanted to do that anyway." And
Yeah.
I had to go back to what gives me joy. And what
Mm.
gives me joy is working with survivors,
Yeah.
working with people to help them to navigate systems. I enjoy that. I love pampering them and supporting them and showing up and giving information. I don't want to do the administrative part of that.
Yeah.
And so when
Yeah.
you are honest with yourself about what it is that you need to do, what I've learned is people still talk, people still, you should have kept it a little longer. If you had just held on a little bit longer, I would have come and I would have done. And it's like that ship has sailed and it's
Yeah.
okay. But if you want to help and support, I can give you the list of 5 other people, that could gladly use the support.
Yeah.
Um, the people that in the space that I'm in now and the things that I'm doing, and I feel the same is true and certainly will be true for you. Whatever next looks like for you in your next level of creating, you will attract the people and the spaces and the places and the opportunities that you are supposed to because of what you said early on in the interview. And that is you're being intentional about being in alignment. And when you get in alignment, it doesn't feel good. It's like a diamond in the rough. It doesn't feel good. You question, you worry, you concern, but I also know, again, be still and know that I am God, and that to whom much is given, much is required. So
Yeah.
there may be much more that you want to do, but it's going to be much more challenge that comes with it. You're going to be tried. You're going to
Yeah.
be tried.
Yeah.
And the harder you're tried and pass, the harder
Mm.
you're tried and pass, the more appreciative you become of the other side when it gets there. Even though you be asking, like, did I really have to go through this?
Yes. I
And
said
it's
it
like,
just this morning.
yeah.
Telling you.
And the answer is yes, you do.
Yeah.
Because, Jamie Foxx, I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna close this out to get into those last couple of questions for you. But I was watching Jamie Foxx's special, and he said that he questioned God and
Mm.
asked God, all these bad people out here and these folks doing all of this mess, and why you allow this to happen to me? And he said that God told him it's because they already belong to someone else. You
Mhm.
belong to me. And I thought, okay, I hear that. I hear that. Everybody has an assignment, and I'd rather be assigned to God, and walk
Yeah.
His path, even if it don't make sense, even if I find myself questioning, even if I don't understand it. My grandmother used to say that, you can see to the corner, but only God sees around it. You have to
Yeah,
trust
that's
Him to be
true.
willing to walk to the corner.
Yeah.
So I guess, but with that, ma'am,
Yeah.
Um, you have shared so many great nuggets already, in terms of advice and things to do and how to show up. And I think my question would be, as we wrap this up, if there is any one point that you definitely would want our listeners to get from you, and then lastly, how can they get in touch with you?
I would say don't be afraid to move. And that's all the puns intended. That's when for me it's God. That's I'm gonna be say, when God told me to move and he made it okay and I did, that's also indicative of whether it's moving jobs or moving cities or just taking a step, whatever that looks like. That's movement. Movement shows up different ways.
Mhm,
When you feel led to move, do it. Don't hesitate. Um, because if you hesitate too long, fear sets in. And I would even
mhm,
say once fear sets in, do it scared. I think it's easy for us to do things when it's like, oh, that's cool, that's easy, that's norm. I think some
mhm,
of the greatest things, our greatest accomplishments come from when we have been the most uncomfortable. I can certainly say that's for me. I hate it. I'll be honest, I hate it. But then when I analyze my greatest accomplishments, even when I think about when, the first time I ever had to sleep in my car when I lived in Los Angeles and I had no place to go. This was before Facebook Live was like a big thing. I recorded it on Facebook. I'm sure it's somewhere way, 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 way back. And then the next day I had an audition. And then like a couple
okay.
days later I had an audition for a music video. You know what I mean? Like I think about
Mhm,
that's
mhm,
how things have showed up in my life. Some of the worst moments and days on the other side of the struggle is a success. And I hate how they go hand in hand, but it's often how it goes. So, when you're told to move, move and do it afraid. Um and then I would say to reach me, um I'm definitely on Facebook, But I would say find what platform you like to engage with, because I engage differently on different platforms. I am on Facebook. I think it's like Facebook/super producer 114, or you can search my name. But I say the slash because at one point people had trouble finding my name, and I thought it was weird because I have a unique name. But I can be found by my first name, middle initial, last name. I'm also on Instagram in two places. So Instagram is my first name underscore middle initial underscore last name. So it's Theryn underscore C underscore bond, THERYN underscore C underscore BOND. That's kind of my personal fun. You see stuff about love life. You'll see stuff about a favorite song. You might see a twerk video, a dance. You'll see all kind of stuff on the personal page. And then
Okay.
I have Political Barbie, which is the my political Instagram page where I talk about more politically engaged and related things. And then I'm on Twitter because I have to be for work purposes at Walking Mic Drop. And then I'm on TikTok. I'm on
Mhm.
TikTok at Political Barbie 47. So um, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, I can be found.
All right, and everyone knows, especially if you've been following, you know that if you pull this up, you will see a bio for Theryn and you will see her points of contact. I just always like to give the guests an opportunity to be able to voice it, especially in the way that you did, because depending on how people choose to engage, they may
Yeah.
decide, okay, this is the best platform for me to engage with you. So, having said that, I want to take this time and opportunity to thank you, Political Barbie Theryn C. Bond,
Thank you.
for taking time and making space for me and us, our listeners today. Um, you are a force. You truly are. And I said it at the beginning, I'll say it now, you wise beyond your years. You are living a very full, robust life. And I wish nothing but great success for you. I will
Thank
continue
you.
to follow you. And let us not let this be the last time. So
Yeah,
I'm already putting it out there that later on in the year, love to have you come back and do a part two. And let's catch
absolutely.
up and see where you are, what you're doing, where you're at, and all the things. And to all of you, my listeners, thank you so much for tuning in, because without you, I could not do this podcast. So thank you so much for continuing to show up, to share, and to contribute in the ways that you do. And as I always say when we end our shows, thank you so much for tuning in, and go out and live the life that you desire and deserve. Remember that you can do that at any age. Let's continue to transition, transform, and thrive. Let's do it together. See you soon.